This episode of the podcast is brought to you by our friends at Track Farms and their excellent CBD products. I got big news for podcast listeners. If you are a regular listener, you hear me talk about my dad all the time, the biggest fan of the podcast, of course, and came on an episode as a guest as well. And the big news is that my father has finally decided he's going to try CBD for some of his injuries. I'm very excited about it. He was a little hesitant, so congratulations, Dad. He's going to Track Farms. He's using the code STRANGERS and getting 15% off, and I'll keep you updated to see if this helps him out. So go to track-farms.com, enter the code STRANGERS at checkout, and that'll get you 15% off your order. Again, that is track-farms.com, enter the code STRANGERS, and get you some CBD just like my dad. Justin Charboneau, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm the worst house guest of all time because here's what happens. I invite myself over and I meet your lovely wife and we do a great podcast together. And then I'm like, let me stay in your house for a few more hours because you also have some interesting things to say. And let's do a podcast right now. So thanks for jumping in to do a podcast episode.
Oh, no, I'm glad it worked. I came up to get more coffee, I think, and now we're doing a podcast.
Yeah, you didn't come here to snipe me at all. I pushed this because I was like, here's the thing. On the show, I've done a lot of episodes with baking. Mostly sourdough baking has been like the vibe. That's the thing I'm into. But I was like, we need to do another baking episode. So it just fucking happened.
Here we are.
Yeah. I kind of thought it might, if I'm being honest, because I had seen the documentary and I'd seen SugarTats and I had gone and looked around a bit and I was like, I feel like I could probably interview him too. So, I wasn't like dissuaded from this before I showed up today, but I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, me too. I mean, this is my first podcast.
Ever?
Never been on a podcast.
Yeah, well, your wife's done a few. She's got a bit of a lead on you there.
Yeah. I mean, she's always ahead of me in the race, if I guess we look at it that way. That's a good pun.
That is good.
Dad
Can
joke.
you keep up with her?
No, not even
You don't
close.
run at all?
No. I mean, I do run. So
yeah.
I've done some Ironman in the past, the triathlon, and then I do like little I just signed up for, it's called the Cookie Chase 5K, and I signed up for it because I can't not sign up for something called that. So I do like them. I've got a half Ironman triathlon coming up in September. So
nice.
I do a little bit, but I'm not competitive.
Okay.
My biggest thing is I'm a middle of the pack to end of the pack. I'm going to finish and have a beer and just be proud of the accomplishment.
Yeah.
Because I think that for me, it keeps me somewhat in shape, but keeps me having something to keep pushing towards and moving forward and a goal to achieve, I guess.
I get that.
But I don't need to be competitive, whereas Britt is in the complete competitive world, which is incredible
she still?
to watch
That's
her.
what I was trying to get. Is she still competitive now that she's got this new perspective on the whole thing?
Yeah,
about
great.
Having fun.
That's a great question. It's I think it's actually enhanced her competitiveness.
Okay.
Because she'll always be competitive. I think she's wanting to push herself and, I mean, be a world-class. She's a world-class athlete, but be one of the top runners in the world, both in the trail and in the road worlds. Right. And to do that, she has to stay competitive or be competitive-minded of having those goals.
You still have to want to win.
Yeah.
On some level, it's just going to be there.
It totally. But having that fun that she puts into it, you almost wouldn't think she's competitive based on how much fun she has.
Yeah.
And
because for most of us, they're totally exclusive. That's super hard to, the things we take seriously, we want to take competitively, and the things we don't, we just want to have fun with, and there's no competition involved. Mm-hmm. And so she's blurring those lines, which is really cool.
Yeah, she's kind of breaking the mold of what people think competitive running or professional athletes should have to have the mindset of strictness. Yeah. So it's really cool. For
anybody who's just excessively confused, I'm not sure I explained this all that well. If you're just tuning into just this episode because you like cookies and you came here for the baking talk, the last episode of Strangers with Meeting before this one was with Brittany, Justin's wife, and we talked about running. She's the funny runner. So, catch up there maybe, and then you'll have some reference for what we're doing now.
Good point.
That might help. But now I have to switch gears because I'm excited to talk about baking, and you already helped me with some of my questions about cookies because I'm struggling. I hope you guys do get a chance to see the documentary Newly Nomads that my wife made, because you will see the size of my oven, and then you will see just how much I actually bake in that oven, which is sort of insane. It doesn't make any sense. It's propane, first of all, so it's heated only entirely from the bottom. I have to trick the racks up a little higher than they're really supposed to go to really be able to do what I want to do. My loaves of bread always hit the ceiling and just sort of puff down, which it's okay. It's its own challenge, man.
Well, that's going to give me some perspective every time I complain about my full-size, I don't mean commercial. Yeah. I have a residential oven, but
it's huge. It's really
compared
nice
to
oven.
yours.
Yeah. Wow. Does it have a heating element on the top too?
Yep.
Yeah, that's got to be nice, huh? Man, back in the day. So it's been a big trip down memory lane. We used to live in Denver for about 2 years, just an apartment in North Glen, but I had a real oven, and I got really into making pizza, and that was where I started with the whole baking thing. I wanted to make like restaurant quality pizza, and I got there. I did it with a baking steel, which I was obsessed with, and I had to get rid of because it's fucking 30 pounds or so.
Yeah.
And I had like a stone over top of my pizzas, and they would just come out like legit as fuck. And I've gotten since then my pizzas to a pretty solid point still, but it won't be quite the same. So yeah, you should just enjoy what you've got for sure.
Yeah.
But you're, I don't know, am I allowed to talk about this? You're thinking about maybe some commercial stuff for SugarTats.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's my ultimate goal. Like a lot of us working multiple jobs and finding this passion turns into hobby, turns into something that could be actually substantial. And and that's what the cookies have done for me. So yeah, I'm looking to be able to move out of my home kitchen for a couple of reasons. I want to have a larger capacity. I'm getting some orders. Last year I got an order that was 56 dozen.
Wow.
And I did that all here.
Wow.
With one fucking oven.
In how many days? One day?
No, it took me about 5 days for that.
Jesus.
It was about 15 hours of decorating, but it was 13 straight hours of baking.
What do you do while you bake? How do you keep in the zone? Like your wife listens to podcasts and audiobooks while she runs. Are you also into that when you bake?
Yeah, I listen to music a lot of the times.
Okay.
Because I'm focused on my hands and what I'm doing, I can't really watch TV or at least anything that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll throw on like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because I just love that show, and you don't need to watch it.
No, not if you've seen it as many times as I suspect you and I both have seen that show. Yeah,
yeah,
you know exactly what everybody looks like.
Yeah, it's just that is like one of my go-tos, and Britt always is like, "Why? What are you watching? They're just yelling," and I was like, "That's the best part." So
you could watch Tom Segura's podcast if you can handle some of the rough parts of Sunny. I think you can handle that podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good to know.
You'd be all right.
Yeah. I'll check that out. Yeah. It's either the funny thing is this is hilarious. It's either It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia on Netflix or Sarah Bareilles Radio, because it's fun to just sing along, and she's my favorite female vocalist, and I do enjoy singing, but for some reason, man, Sarah Bareilles, I'll just try to belt that out.
Yeah. You guys, you're quite musical, the two of you. I saw some guitars upstairs. Was there a banjo there too?
There is a banjo.
I thought there was.
Yeah. So one of my good friends, Guido, it's Brittany's coach's husband, Guido. He and I went on a road trip last year to North Dakota because neither of us had been. So why not take a road trip to North Dakota?
Yeah. Well, also, why though?
That was also part of, we weren't sure.
I'm kidding, North Dakota. I love you. I've never been there.
Yeah.
But what is it kind of up there?
Nothing. There's a 37-mile stretch of highway called the Enchanted Highway that has I think it's like 7 or 8 giant sculptures.
That's pretty cool. I can get into that.
So we drank beer. We ate Dots pretzels. They're from North Dakota, and we drove that highway.
Let's circle back to pretzels
in that order, and then we turned around and basically came home. But on that trip, the reason I say all that backstory is because on that trip we had been camping all the way, and we realized we needed to try to find a banjo so we could write a country song for our wives about our trip in North Dakota. And so we stopped at multiple pawn shops, and the banjos were just shit and way too expensive and they were just shit. And neither of us played banjo. I've played guitar for many years, but for my birthday last year, which was about a month or so after we got back from this trip, he bought me a banjo.
Nice.
And it's been a blast. I've played it a handful of times. It's different than guitar, but it's really fun to pick up and just kind of pluck, I guess.
Do you guys sing together? Do you have a little couple band here now?
Yeah, not as much as we should.
Yeah.
Britt started taking singing lessons over the past month. I don't know if you guys talked about that last
did.
week. Okay, so obviously I haven't listened to the podcast from last week for all the listeners now.
Yes.
Because it was recorded an hour ago.
Yeah.
In real time.
Exactly.
Is that okay that I say that?
Yeah. Oh no, I don't hide any secrets. I parse these episodes out just to keep myself fucking going. And the nice thing is it buys me some time sometimes to find my next guests and things like that. So it's very nice.
Perfect. I didn't know the podcast lingo. If there was don't tell people the process.
I could put them out every day if I wanted to, but the problem would be I would put out 4 in a day, and then I'd go to a place where there aren't guests, because I'll go to a lot of places where either we don't have time for it or I just can't find cool people. And I try real hard. I always do. And sometimes I just can't find cool people, or the people I do find, it's the holidays and they don't want to do something, whatever. So, yeah, it's always nice to buy a little extra time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Britt and I, now that she's taking singing lessons, it's so cool to just hear her singing upstairs, with her singing teacher over Zoom, and just having the time of her life. So I definitely think there's going to be some band-esque type Charboneau sing-alongs coming out, which would be really cool.
That's actually, you got the name for it, the Charboneaus. I can absolutely see that. on an album?
I've always wanted a duo. I'd like to create a duo, a 2-person band, and just call it the Schizophrenic Five.
Oh, well.
Because I just thought it was like the funniest name
That's
for
pretty
2 people.
good.
And I don't think I made that up. It was I think it was a buddy of mine and I years ago were talking about it, but it always stuck with me.
Yeah.
I can't take full credit for the name, but it was like so funny. I was like, it'd just be a great like 2-person gig called the Schizophrenic Five.
You could, the 5 is good because you've got the Jackson 5 reference.
Oh,
but
valid, yeah.
the Schizophrenic 7 would be the alliteration that you need.
You're right.
In my word. Although you don't want to be the SS. Now that I think about
true.
it. Oh, shit.
Well, something is going to come along, so expect some Charboneau tunes.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Well, you guys, I like you guys. You've got these interests that are just all over the board, and you're not afraid of that. And I always harp on people for for allowing their identity, and we've just talked about this, allowing their identity to be parsed down into a niche, because we all feel like we have to have some sort of online brand now, and you can't just be into all the things you're into. You know, there's no way to marry them, but that's not true. That's never been true. Like anybody who's ever built a successful entertainment, persona around themselves, it's because they're into like a million different that's things that seem completely unconnected but totally work together. I don't know. I think it can happen.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it can, and it's interesting too to see Brit's success in the running world and now the art world and the singing world, and her branching into all these different amazing things that are bringing her joy. And then you see my world of being kind of in the corporate world, having my career job. And then now I started decorating cookies when I was 30. And it's like, who would have thought that would happen? And then doing triathlons. And it's like, we're both all over the place. And we actually don't have a lot of similarities of our interests, but we have a lot of similarities in the fact that we're just go-getters of whatever.
Absolutely.
And supporters. I think that's the biggest thing is I wouldn't do cookies if Britt was like, why are you wasting your time with that?
Right.
But she would never say that about anything, as neither would I with her. And I think that's really what makes us the couple that we are, the team that we are, is like, she's like, I think I want to go sing. And I was like, then yeah, find a coach, like go do it. And that's, I think, what really helps both of us thrive in our own elements.
Yeah. Are you a big reader also?
Yeah, not as much as her, but I love reading.
Yeah.
And I only say not as much is because I don't give myself the time. I think as far as my want and enjoyment, 100%.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of late night cookies, and then I'm tired, and I don't feel like staying up late to keep reading. So then I stay on the same book for a month, but I do enjoy reading a lot.
Yeah. I think that's always a common thread is people who like to read seem to get that lesson of like, man, life is short and you need to just like do the things you like to do because you get one shot. I mean, I just feel like that's the common theme of so many great books. We have a friend for anybody who can hear.
Yeah, our friend Snacks. Snacks, come here. So yeah, we've got a cat named Snacks who.
Oh, we've already made good friends together.
Okay, yeah. So if you listen to last week's podcast, you'll hear Snacks. But yeah, every time we put on music, we put on TV, we start talking. Any noise that doesn't involve petting him, he lets us know that he would prefer to be pet instead of anything else.
He wants to be in the conversation. He's just trying to contribute, people.
Yeah.
Don't disparage him for that one.
Yeah.
So when did the baking really start? When did you find baking?
So baking started. I actually know the date, which is funny because I have the first photo. Which is right there, actually, which listeners, you can see I'm pointing
There's
at our...
a few snowmen cookies,
shelf.
I see, it looks like.
Yeah, so they're astronauts.
Astronauts. And that would be the globe.
Yep.
Would be the other cookies. I've seen it now.
Yeah. For listeners to try to paint the picture, we're sitting at the kitchen table. We've got a little shelf with a framed photo of astronaut cookies with little globe cookies behind them. That was my first set of cookies on November 15th of 2019. So pre-COVID. We were having Brittany's coach and husband over, and we decorated. Once you get to know Brittany, we love costumes as much as possible. We try to dress up for any occasion. So we had them over, and we decorated our house like a space station. And I had Googled. We were trying to find things to do for dinner, and so I Googled space-themed desserts, and I saw these astronaut cookies that were just gingerbread men decorated like astronauts. Mm-hmm. And my first thought was like, I bet I could do that. So I Googled. What's the frosting that hardens on cookies? And that was the start. So I went to the store, bought everything I needed, and I went for it. So the framed photo in our kitchen is my first set of cookies. I bought them, I even bought the mix of sugar cookie mix and went to town. And they're laughable to me now, and they're very fun, but such a cool moment of sparking this joy of kind of the artistic side of it. It was really fun to create. It took me way too long, but it was so fun to figure out. And that kind of led into me just being like on the weekends, I think I'm going to try to make another set of cookies. And it kind of sprouted from there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like if you're open to trying new things all the time and just like new hobbies, like this podcast has been one of them. I get to try a million people's different things. And I'm like, oh, I could get obsessed with that, you know, and you just don't know what that thing you're going to try is. That you're like, oh, okay, this might be a defining moment for my life, which is really, really cool.
Well, and even with you and bread, I mean, it could be a similar thing. It's even talking to you about your adventures with bread, from pizza dough to sourdough to whatever you're doing. And the fact that you can do it in such a small oven, I'm like, man, look at the opportunity I have here to try bread, but I'm almost afraid that I'm going to like it so much.
Oh man, I should have brought you some starter too.
Oh man.
Fuck. No, it's an obsession. Like, cause it started with me from just pizza. And then I was like, all right, well, bread's not, you know, far from this. And then I was like, what's this yeast stuff I'm always using? And I was like, oh, it's bullshit is what it is. Okay, gotcha. And then I started, you know, like learning all about wild yeast and fermentation. You know, what was great is 2 episodes ago, which I actually recorded just yesterday. People, I'm on a tear with the podcast right now. Was with a paleontologist at Morrison Natural History Museum, and we were talking about how dinosaurs started as such tiny babies and then grew to be so big when there's almost no food around and they're like herbivores. Like think about how much work we have to do to gain weight. Like we have to put work into that if you want to gain, you know, assuming you want to gain muscle. You have to take in a lot of calories in order to do that. And so I'm like, how did they do it then? And they're starting to find that it's possible that dinosaurs were eating fermented food or were able to sort of ferment. I'm not sure if they were doing the fermenting or if there were natural food sources that would naturally ferment around them and then they would eat that. So we're drawn to eating fermented foods, which is really cool. And that's like when you can exploit calories like that, you get so much more nutritional benefit out of it and they could become so large.
Wow,
this was crazy yesterday. He's like literally like chipping away a fossil of a skull of a dinosaur that's sitting right on the table next to us, and it was awesome. He's like, this is the first thing. This is the first time this has seen sunlight in like several 100 million years. Like, very cool.
Wow, that's neat.
Where was I fucking going with that? Fermentation. Yeah. So sourdough becomes a big obsession, and I've had great episodes on the show, and I've pushed myself when it comes to sourdough. But at the end of the day, baking is just like, it's just joy. It's just like giving people joy. And when you do it yourself, it's totally different. Or especially like when people go to you and if they can't do it themselves and they know that someone has handmade that thing custom for them, that's beautiful, man.
Yeah. And that's it, you know, and I think that's really what kind of lit that spark or I guess became the fire in the cookies, because it was really fun to make those astronaut cookies for Guido, and same guy who bought me the banjo. Right. So it all comes back together. But it was just really fun, and it was a gift. And it was like, here we go. And when I started just making random cookies, I would take them into work, and people would say, oh, could you make Harry Potter characters or this or that? And they throw ideas at me. I'd go back and make them and bring them back in and seeing that joy. But, you know, you fast forward to today, the reason I keep going is because I get the opportunity to be part of the most precious moments in life that I never expected. For example, I have my first gender reveal cookies coming out. Fun. And it's such a cool thing that sometimes I get to hear the news before the family, before the couple, the customer. And those are such beautiful, precious, I think, elements of this job now that I never thought would be part of this, you know, and it's incredible. You know, I don't even have the words to express how the gratitude I have that they're willing to trust me with this info and ask me to help celebrate with the family. And it's very fulfilling.
I think we're going back in a good way. I always feel like culture is a big pendulum, and we've gone away. We've gone towards mass-produced everything bullshit. Milano cookies all the time, and now we're swing. I like Milano cookies. And then we swing back, and craftspeople are getting a fucking shot again. And I even feel like, to some extent, COVID helped with that. Some businesses it helped. Some businesses it hurt with that. But people are reconnecting because of social media with the idea of like an individual, a craftsperson making the thing that they want. Like, like Andrea and my wedding rings came from a dude in San Francisco. I know like his whole story, and he makes these like rings out of wood, and they're handmade, and it's super cool. Wow. And I know that I'll never spot somebody with my wedding ring, which is that's awesome. Yeah. And I think that transcends a lot of the commercial bullshit.
Well, I think so too, and I think it's that. I think they're starting to just hold more value. And I think people are looking at value versus cost. Yeah. In that way of like, okay, yeah, sure, the dollar amount might be here, but look what I'm getting. Right. Look at the creation.
People want real experiences too. Yeah. Like that's what we all crave, because when everything becomes so easy and so accessible, it's like, well, I'd like the real thing now, please. Like, we get bored of the mass package. Man, I'm on a weird tangent right now because I think I'm thinking way too meta because I already did a podcast and I just start going really meta.
I like it.
Oh shit.
Yeah, go for it.
We're just talking about fucking cookies, people. It's all good. Like, relax. So I feel like you've got this cool blend when it comes to cookies, though, where you get to do a mix between it is about the baking and it is about the taste, but it's also a piece of art. It's also a painting that you're giving somebody.
Yeah, of course. And in high school I took every art class that was available because I really loved art. My dad was a graphic artist, so I've kind of had like art and drawing around. But after high school, I was like, oh, girls, music, beer, like, and I stopped. Yeah, well, yeah, they're all great things. But I stopped drawing. I stopped doing anything artistic other than music. I played music for a while, but didn't do anything with my hands, drawing and creating in that sense. And so when cookies came back, I was like, okay, I can figure out the art side of it. And then I can learn about icing and I can learn about different consistencies and how to make the icing do what I want it to do. But then it came down to the cookies.
Yeah.
I started buying just I don't know if it was the Toll House sugar cookie bag mix. Sure. That's made in California, and the directions are for basically that type of altitude. So none of it really worked when we were here in Colorado. But learning that, I probably tried 30 or 40 different recipes and then pulled my favorite things from each and created my recipe, which took a while. And it was frustrating. I laugh because, I've got a couple mixers here, which you had commented on earlier. And
love them.
Like,
I can't have one of those. Where would I put it?
Yeah, it's true. That thing's the size of your entire RV, I think. But it was funny. I remember wanting one, and I was talking to Britt, and this was right in the beginning. I said, I think I need a mixer. And she's like, well, I mean, I support you, but they're expensive.
They're pricey.
Like, do you need it yet? And I used to mix all the cookie dough by hand, and I would just put on gloves and just try to mash it together. And it's humorous now. But she basically said, well, if you want to start selling these things, why don't you just set yourself a goal? Sell X amount to make X amount to then put that towards a mixer. And it's amazing to see, fast forward a year, I just had to upgrade one of my mixers and was able to do it off of one cookie order.
Nice.
And it's just it's amazing to see, like, okay, now I can start investing in myself because I've developed the things I need to, not only the skills for the cookies, but the recipe is so important to me because customers will say, those are pretty, how do they taste? And I'm like, why don't you try it yourself? And I'm always open to feedback. And it's really great to be able to perfect. I believe it's perfected my cookie, that it's a delicious vanilla cookie that's soft in the middle, and it's perfect.
How do you keep them fresh? Because you must be shipping these, right?
So
what are those freshness secrets?
I can ship inside of state, technically with the state of Colorado, but I heat seal them. So just with cellophane bags, I have a little heat seal machine.
That's nice.
And yeah, basically once you airtight them, so they'll last about a day and a half outside of anything, just in drying in the air, because you want the icing to dry overnight for the most part. But yeah, they'll last about a day and a half without getting too dry. And then once I heat seal them, they'll last for a week or two. Some, probably 2.5 weeks realistically, in that heat sealed package that has no airflow. So if I do need to create the cookies and the customer wants them a few days before, I always heat seal them so that they have fresh cookies every time they bite into them.
That's a good way to go.
And then if I'm doing like a 54 dozen order, I use Tupperware. Tupperware is a lifesaver. So before I ice the cookies, before I decorate anything, I'll just bake all the cookies. I stack them up and organize them in completely sealed Tupperware, and that'll keep them fresh for a couple of days as I'm decorating them in chunks. Yeah,
it's for the home chef who's not doing these types of orders, it's always tough to like get your numbers right, especially sourdough, because you have to feed it so often. I got to a place where I'm literally baking. I think I told you I'm baking like one thing a day.
Yeah.
So there's going to be something. Most things are nice because they can sit in the fridge. Like I can make tortillas and they can just sit in the fridge until I'm ready to make tacos. That's pretty easy. Or crackers or something like that. But I thought at the beginning, like, this is great. Even when bread goes stale, you just make breadcrumbs, and those are great. And you make some fucking meatloaf and just enjoy yourself. And I actually had to make a loaf of bread in order to have breadcrumbs because we eat the bread so fast that it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I was going to ask if we, we'll get loaves of bread, and we'll have it for dinner, and then we don't know how to keep the rest of it fresh, other than putting it in a Ziploc bag. Is there a better way?
I think that. Okay, here's my secret when it comes to bread, which is that the crust is your best ally for anything. So the more you can keep the crust intact, the better. So when I'm making like bagels, I would never cut them until I'm ready to eat them. And if I need to reheat them, then I can literally just sort of rebake them for a few minutes, fully formed, and that will keep all the moisture inside because the crust is still there holding it. So if you have like a loaf of bread and you've eaten like half of it, set the half down so the crust is all what's exposed in the oven, and then heat that up from there, and then that'll keep all the steam inside. So
that's
generally
great.
that's how I do that. Yeah,
Okay.
because I used to be a big toast guy, and I was like, this is bullshit. This just takes all the water out. I want the water in. So that's my big secret.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the bread and cookie hack, where
To
bread
keep
and
them
cookies can come together?
Oh, interesting.
If you ever had cookies that go stale or get a little too crunchy,
Okay.
if you, whether it's in a Tupperware or a plastic bag, throw a piece of bread in there with them, zip it up, and the cookies will actually overtake the moisture from the bread.
That makes sense.
And then they get soft again.
It's amazing how many things you start to learn as you go, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it feels like mostly useless information when I'm being honest, but it's cool. Like especially when it's bread, it's like I can sustain myself on like this is pennies. This is pennies to make this. It does not cost much to buy a bunch of flour, and it's nutritious. And there you go. Like it's kind of insane that we're able to do that. I don't mean to just entirely hijack the conversation to sourdough, though.
No, it's fine because I'm
that's just my
so
background.
interested in sourdough because I've never done it.
It's
so.
great, man.
Yeah.
It's great. I got obsessed with it because of Michael Pollan's book Cooked, which there's also the series on Netflix.
Okay.
And he talks a lot about fermentation, how great it is for you. And the podcast listeners have already gone down this rabbit hole with me a million times.
Perfect.
Because did you know that you're more bacteria than you are human? Like you have 10 times more bacteria cells in you than you do human cells.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So we're mostly just controlled by the bacteria that's in our bodies. So it's cool shit. So I like to feed the bacteria good bacteria shit.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. The podcast listeners have also heard me whip that out just constantly. It's pretty obnoxious. I need to talk with you about pretzels though. Do you do any pretzel making?
I've never done pretzels. I did at one point. There's a restaurant or the restaurant Auntie Annie's, the place in the mall.
Yeah.
When I was 16, I worked there, or I worked at PacSun, and met a guy who worked there, and he let me come back and try to whip up a pretzel. The little flip thing that they do. I could never get it.
Okay, but
That's
you
all
have
I've
that
got.
insider knowledge. That's what I need.
Okay.
Because my issue right now is that most people, do a poach in or a boil in baking soda, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I recently just learned that you can take your baking soda and turn it from sodium bicarbonate into sodium carbonate if you bake the baking soda for a while, which makes it more acidic. So it's closer to like lye. And I don't want to fuck around with lye because I've watched Fight Club one too many times to think about marks on my hands, and I just don't want to mess with it, But I'm trying so hard to get these pretzels right, and I just wrecked a
Are you
batch
so
the
you're
other day.
rolling them out into like a log?
Yeah.
And then you grab each end, and it's kind of
The
like this.
forming isn't the problem.
Flip it. Okay.
My wife.
It's about the baking side of like how do you actually get it to.
It's the browning, and it's also like what I need to buy is some baking racks. I don't have any baking racks with smaller holes because I have to cook everything on a pan. You cook a pretzel on a pan,
It
just flat
flats,
on the bottom.
yeah.
It's just bullshit.
Interesting.
I need to invest in some.
Well, and Auntie Annie's also brushes them with butter. It's going to give you some artificial browning on the top.
do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
What did they use? Did you have to wear gloves when did you dip it and everything in their solution, or was that already done? No, it wouldn't have been done.
no,
yet.
it wouldn't have been done. Yeah. So I don't remember, man. Yeah. It was like I dipped it in something,
Yeah.
and then I
Did you?
did
But were you wearing gloves? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Then it was probably real lye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you
definitely
can't
could
get
have
that
been.
on your skin.
Oh, okay. I didn't know though too with it being in a mall. It's probably just food safety.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's pretty rough to actually. Assuming it is real lye, for you to do that with no training, that's pretty rough. That's a big lawsuit when
Yeah.
you splash them in your eye.
Oh, definitely could have been.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that I was a PacSun retail employee going behind the counter and doing it is probably not.
But
the
you had
best
good friends, man. They were
Yeah.
like, "Fuck it, come on." But there was something in you even back then that was like interested in baking things. Then,
Yeah, I
do you
guess so.
cook a
And-
lot outside of baking?
No, man, I never really did. Like Brit's an amazing cook, and I'm grateful for her that she does a lot of the cooking. I'm decent when I follow recipes and I can cook fine, but when it comes to baking, like I didn't start baking because I wanted to bake. I started baking because it was an opportunity to draw, and I think I didn't realize it at the time. I love drawing. I love the art side of that, and cookies were a perfect culmination of both. But then as I've gotten into baking, I've just fallen in love with how different everything is and the science behind baking that I am so new at this. That like I've experienced with some different cookies. Like I love making cheesecake filled cookies. So good.
Shit.
And
Sounds really good.
for Saturday, we've got a baby shower coming up, and I'm going to make cookie dough filled cupcakes, which I've never tried.
Nice.
And so I'm really excited just for these different elements of things I can play around with. But I'm still so baby at this that I'm excited that I got into cookie or like baking when I did, because it's an endless world of what I can do.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And it's also, well, when you draw things, as much as I like to draw, I don't actually draw, but Andrea does. I like it when she does that. You can't eat that when it's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you can't.
It doesn't taste good.
No. And
you can eat it. In fact, people do. I knew kids in elementary school who were happy eating paper, but
when they have that, like My Strange Addiction show, people eat everything.
Do you watch any of that? Are you into reality TV?
Well, shitty reality.
What's the worst guilty pleasure? You've already said Sarah Bareilles, so I don't know if you have.
Sarah Bareilles is not bad. Last night I just finished the second season of The Circle on Netflix.
Oh, I've been wanting to. Okay,
God, it's good.
I asked my friend yesterday about this. Please tell me, how the fuck does this work? It's social media, but it's also like a game show.
Yeah, I'll try to just like break it down in a very quick sentence. It's worth your time. No, I'm just kidding. That's a sentence. But long story short, it's a bunch of people get put into these like secluded rooms. They're in like an apartment building, right?
They're sexy people though, right? That's important, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, some of them.
Okay.
But it's Netflix came out with like 3 shows. They came out with like the Love is Blind, the Too Hot to Handle.
That's probably the one I'm thinking of.
And this show called The Circle. They kind of came out with them all at the same time. They're kind of dating-esque shows, but they all have a different premise. The Circle, how it is it's a bunch of players. They get put in this apartment building. They're all in their own apartment, and they're not allowed to talk to each other except for through messaging via what is like Amazon Alexa. So they'll say, "Hey, Circle," and it's like, "Yes." And it's like, send a message to the group and say, "Hi, everyone. My name's Justin." And you create a profile with a profile picture. And basically, it's like Catfish Central, right? And it's a popularity contest. So then the way that the show works is there's $100,000 on the line. And every day they have to rate each other from favorite to least favorite. So it's a popularity contest based on the relationships you can build via Messenger. And then, and so it's like, you don't know who's real and who's fake, except you as the viewer can see everything. But they don't know. And then, it's just a game. And the basically last person standing wins the $100,000. And it's just
Blind
such
Survivor
trash and so entertaining at the same time that Brittany just shakes her head as I watch it. I'm just like, I like it.
All right, I'm going to watch this.
Yeah,
that
it's good.
Sounds really
Worth watching.
That sounds super good. Because I'm thinking there's so many ways to play that. There's so many strategies to take on there.
A million.
You want to be you want to be the middle person the whole time. The one that no one sees as a threat, but
is also friends with
everybody.
Yeah. And it's just hilarious too to see like some of the people be like, "Oh, get it, girl, like you're the best," and it's just some random dude playing his best friend who's a chick, and it's like, and he's just laughing because the guys will flirt with him, and he's like, "How do I flirt back?"
Oh my god! All right,
it's good.
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah.
See, this is what this podcast is all about. Really, complete nonsense in any direction you want. I don't know how we got on that.
I don't know either, but it was good. It was about I was talking about cookies. You were talking about bread.
You mentioned some other reality show first, like a TLC. Oh, Strange Addiction. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, about eating. Oh, here I remember actually because I had something to say
art.
on what you were saying. You can't eat your art.
Right.
I think on the flip side with cookies, the good thing is when you mess up, you just eat it.
Right.
So it's kind of a cool thing that I've really enjoyed about cookies is, Brittany's amazing. My wife Britt's amazing at a statement that like perfection is not real. And I'm definitely a perfectionist and always want to be the best I can be at the things I'm doing. But she even told that to me last night. We were talking about something. She's like, yeah, perfection's not real. And it's a cool thing I've learned with cookies because I'm never going to be able to replicate a graphic image out of icing.
Right.
I can get pretty damn close and close enough that the customer's going to love it. But anytime I mess up, a lot of times I'll make a few extra cookies. So if I mess one up, I just push it aside. I've been doing a lot of like kind of painting on cookies too. And so it's a whole different world, like actually doing actual art on top of the icing with edible paints and things. And
that's cool.
I'm not very good at it yet, and I I'm still learning, but I mess up a lot. And so every time I mess up on a cookie, I just take a bite out of it and then I set it aside. Because I a lot of times don't want to eat a full cookie because I would eat a lot of cookies that way. But it also is a marker for me to not just be in the zone and grab it and start working again.
Right.
But every time I mess up or something I'm not proud of, I just eat it.
Yeah,
It's kind of a cool thing.
There's destruction mixed in with the creation there, which is really cool. You have to accept that, like, I'm making this amazing thing, and at some point, it's just going to be all over some kid's face. That's what it's going to do. You know,
Totally.
It's finite. That's life, man. That's the cool thing about it. See, I'm going too meta. You see what I mean?
It's good though.
But it's too much. It's too much.
Here's the thing. I didn't start cookies just to do it for an hour. I started it so I can do it for a lifetime, to see where it goes over the next 5, 10, whatever years.
Right.
You know, I don't think I'm going to stay with cookies forever. I'm going to evolve into something else and probably still do cookies. It's where it's where it started me. But it's not about. And I think Britt and I never really look at things of like, what's gonna be great this month. You know, it's like, what can we do this month that's going to be great for a long time.
Right.
So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that perspective. But it's also just this endless black hole, like cooking, baking. It just, you can go forever. But it's so integral to like existing. And that's what we should kind of all be engaging in some way or shape or form. I'm not a big fan of the world of segmentation, of the idea that you're supposed to go to this job, and all the food that you will eat will be prepared by someone else. That's more efficient. That's classic sort of Adam Smith capitalism, right? I think that's who was kind of proposing this. Someone else is going to be faster and cheaper and better at making food than you are, so you should not do it. You should instead do your office job. You should go to this gym where everybody else is going if you need exercise, you know, and we need to just kind of regulate that and make it a process. I really think that when you sort of spit in the face of the system every time you're doing something for yourself. Mm-hmm. It's like, nah, I do this part myself, you know?
Yeah, and you're going to find the people who support it are the people who are also doing it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So most of your clients, you feel like, have some element of that within their own lives.
Well, no, not necessarily, I guess, in that way of support. I think people, I'm very grateful people support me for me, but also I have so many customers that just see the cookies and want cookies. But I think what I mean is people, like when you as any individual doing your own thing, the way that's not like, just because somebody's better, stronger, faster, whatever, shouldn't stop you from doing what you're doing. And I think you'll find those people who aren't letting the betters of the world, in whomever's eyes, stop them from what they're doing, are the people who will support you and motivate you to keep doing your own path.
Yeah.
Whereas I get people like, you have such a good job? Why are you wasting all your time with this stuff? And I'm like, because you also have a really good desk job, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
If they're happy, fantastic. And it's not that I'm not happy with my desk job. It's just not fulfilling to the point of what cookies are doing and bringing joy to others in that type of way.
You have to find those things, man. That's because you get one fucking shot. But some people have different goals, you know, and some people really love their office job because it allows them to have the weekends with their kids, and they're really all about their kids, and that's their vibe.
And that's phenomenal, right?
It's great.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. And and I think that's kind of where I was going with it. It's like, it's not bad on either side.
Yeah.
You know, I always say everyone has their own decision, and every decision's right.
Yeah.
Because it's yours.
As long as you have some self-awareness, though, that's the important part.
That's definitely
because
valid,
if you're just like funneled in through the system, then and you're not aware of why you're doing anything, that's what leads people to fucking crack when they hit 50 and they're like, oh shit, I wasted it all.
Yeah.
You have to be aware of what you're doing and where your time is going, and make sure that it's on things you want to do.
Yeah, if it's leading to a bigger goal, right?
Yeah.
And now if that desk job is leading you to your retirement at X age with X income, that's great. If
Right.
that's your goal and you're on the path, do it.
Right.
But yeah, if you're just like mindless, like I clock in, I clock out, and then I don't know what else is happening, it's like, let's figure something out.
Yeah.
And I just hope the best for people to explore things like Britt and I have done. Explore random shit that you never thought you'd be in, and see if something sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, I like the way you think. You're both sort of philosophically minded, which is cool. Do you do that with each other a lot? Like, do you go down long rabbit holes of like talking about life and things like that together?
Yeah, I think as much as we can. And I think Britt is so amazing at leading that, especially with the cookies. You know, when I first started, when I made that first set of cookies, 2 days later, I flipped on TV and the Christmas Cookie Challenge show was on Food Network. And I was like, there's a whole world of these people. And I was like, I would love to be on that show. And she's like, so do it. She's like, what's stopping you? And I was like, I don't know how to get on that show. I mean, this was like day 3 of me ever trying to make cookies.
Right.
And so she's very good at like pushing me to say, okay, well, if that's your goal, what are all the little things that need to get you there? You know, right now, looking about getting my own kitchen or getting something that, you know, if I want to.
That's slipping off. Hang on one second,
yeah.
folks.
Mike is falling.
It's because I made you put a towel there to help the table.
No, that's fine. I mean, it's the bottom of the table. We can take the towel off.
Righty tighty, lefty loosey, and I'm upside down.
So you need to move it towards me.
That seems wrong. This way would be right.
Really?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm wrong.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Gets me every time. I'm gonna put a big hole in your table or something.
That's all right.
Is that gonna stay for now?
Okay. We're back.
Oh, people deal with it. It is what it is.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it was just even, getting my own kitchen and getting my own space. Britt has heard me talk about that a lot. And just the other day, she's like, okay, cool. So what are the steps to get there? What's the big picture? We know where you want to go, but there's so many things that have to take place, or at least intention and direction that are going to get us there. And, it's funny, I launched the business in April of last year. So April of 2020 is when we came up with SugarTats Cookies. We got the name, I built the website and all that stuff. And about 3 days later, I made the show.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, so within a year from when I saw the Christmas Cookie Challenge show on Netflix, now I'm on the cast.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so crazy. And that is such a big part of Britt's philosophy, which I've now adapted as well and fully believe in, is you speak it into existence. You manifest it, you put it out there, you write it on a board, you put it somewhere. And then you are one step closer to making it happen. Because I could have said, like, that'd be cool to make cookies someday. And then so many other things come into play. And then the new season of The Circle's on. And then I'm just watching that. And, and it's all these things just get in our way because that is life. And it's an amazing thing about life, because all the things in your way are new opportunities to find things you like. But if there's the things you really care about, Britt has been an amazing example for me of, like, put it somewhere, say it somewhere, tell someone somewhere, and then work towards it. And that's what has really, I've seen really start happening.
Yeah. She's got a real linear, as a runner, I think you have a real linear view of the world too, which is probably helpful for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you go, that's a marathon. It is 26.2 miles. I'm aware of that. And this is the date that it is. And now I can build, it's literally just numbers up to that point. It's like, now I'm going to build the numbers and I'm going to work in the cross training and I'm going to get to that point at that time. So that makes things really linear by looking at that end goal. I don't know if it's as easy. I mean, it's really cool the way you're able to do it with baking, but I think there's other pursuits that are way more difficult, because like even you playing guitar, it's like, would you set the goal to have an album of original music that you wrote, or would it be like, I'd like to be able to play, some really advanced guitar song that I'm aware of? This is terrible, folks. Like it's not quite as linear when it comes to that as it is with racing, right? So it's so challenging.
No, and sorry, we're gonna fix this microphone real quick.
Yeah, give us about 5 seconds here.
We can take we can just take the towel off. Yeah, it's no problem.
I think it's also the stickers like slipping. If you've noticed that, the felt pad.
Oh yeah.
It's totally coming off. I should get some new stands. This is episode 50 something. This podcast, people, and I'm still like, I don't have good enough microphones here.
It's good. I think it makes you more of a real person. So that's always good. There you go. Yeah, bottom of the table, man. Dig it in.
All right.
Let's dig it in.
It's so fun to listen to on audio.
Yeah.
ASMR, free ASMR on this channel. Okay. If you I think if you take the weight a little more over here, you're still fine.
I can scoot up a bit.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you were saying
having like a linear. I just feel like having a linear goal helps you think like that. Because it's almost like the manifesting. It's kind of like The Secret kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, but you have to know what the end goal is. And sometimes it's really hard to tell, like, what is the end goal then? And how can you immerse yourself just in the work without even necessarily worrying about the end goal? Like this podcast, I don't have an end goal for this thing.
Yeah.
I think it'd be kind of cool. Be cool if this was like my job, but I don't really see I don't think that's going to be a thing at all. So it's not necessarily the end goal for me. So I don't know, man.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the way I look at it, because with cookies, I guess the way I look at it is a lot of end goals can also be first goals.
That's true.
I think if we look at in the sense of the marathon world of, okay, I know I've got this race on this date. It's this many miles. I know everything I need up to that. But then the way Britt looks at it is like, okay, so what is that marathon going to do for me?
That's true.
Well, that marathon is then going to make me strong enough for this marathon or have the experience. And so I think when I look at, let's say, musicians, like you had made an example, when I used to play music, so I came out with a few albums. I was a singer-songwriter, just playing coffee shops and stuff. And I was in a couple bands, but our end goal was always also our first goal of getting signed. And then what? But until that, I remember my first goal as a guitarist. I'd written one song and I'd learned like 3 or 4. And I said, I'm going to play this open mic at this coffee shop on Thursday, because I always go to it and I'm always too nervous to get up there. But I'm going to do it by the end of the year. Nice. I gave myself a full year.
Yeah.
And on my birthday, I went and did it when I was 15. And I was like, okay. And then that said, okay, now if there's a venue in downtown Denver, I want to play that venue. And when I was in a rock band, we played that venue. And it was like, okay, this is pretty cool. So those goals, I think, were for me like kind of those big stretching goals, but they were also a starting point for the next big goal.
That's a good point.
And I think that's the way Britt looks at it too, is having the linear view, I think, brings it to what do I need to do today? And having the bigger view is like, what is what I do today going to really do to help everything?
Right.
Later.
And you have their benchmarks instead of ultimate goals.
A perfect way to say it. Yeah.
Right. That's interesting. And I can tell you guys have I question myself a little too much. So I'd be overthinking the idea of, because for, to even be able to set that goal, like, all right, I want to be on that show. I'd completely overthink that goal. I'd never stick to that. I'd be like, all right, it should probably be something else. That's not quite the goal. There should be, I'm looking for something else, so you really have to believe and like set and be incredibly intentional to make it work that way. It seems like that you guys rock that.
Yeah. Or unintentional. I think unintentionally intentional. I don't know. Maybe I'm just circling around, but I think a way to think about it too is Britt, when she heard a saying when she was in improv that I would always say, like, write drunk, edit sober. And it's like, just get it out there, just go do it. And then think about it later, as long as obviously it's ethical and you're not an idiot, right? But, I think that's a big thing with the cookies is, I think it is a perfect example of the cookies. I will never get better if I'm not taking on designs and challenges that I don't think I can do.
Right.
I remember early on, a few months in, I got what's one of my favorite sets to this day for what it did for me is I got asked to do these dream catchers. And I was like, that's a lot of line work.
That's hard.
And I think right before that, I was like, how do you make straight lines? And then I get a dream catcher, which is full of straight lines. I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I think I even got it. Thankfully, it was for my, our cousin, Britt's cousin. So it's a family member. So It showed up a week and a half late. And because I sat on it, like, I don't think I can do this. But that was a turning point for me because I was like, whoa, if I just say, okay, like, because I was trying to plan it. I was trying to be like, okay, if I can do it this way, maybe I can take the design and change it this way. And I just overthought it to the point that I scared myself and I never started. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it today. And I'm going to just sit down and I'm just going to make it. And they turned out to be some of my favorite cookies to this day. But they're cookies that I still get compliments on of like, wow, those are beautiful. And I just laugh at myself because I almost didn't do them. Mm-hmm. I almost changed the design. I almost overthought too much rather than just putting it out there and allowing myself to fail miserably. Because if I didn't give it a shot, I wouldn't have made it. And I almost didn't because I was afraid of it just being a disaster.
Yeah. This is, it makes me think of Stephen Pressfield, if you're familiar with. He wrote the book, The War of Art, which is really all about just show up every day, like this art is your job, and sit down and just fucking do it.
Yeah.
And he talks a lot about writing, which I think is one of the harder things to do, because you really have to just sit down and crank it out and just keep working. And it's going to be horse shit for a long time, That's what but I always think about that with anything when even with the podcast, which is luckily like this comes a little more naturally to me than something like writing. So it's easy, it's fun. But it is the process of just, I'll get to certain towns and I'm like, you know what, I'm real tired. I don't know if I want to find guests and do episodes and things like that right now. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Just start sending messages to people, man, and just start looking and just start doing them. And I'm always glad that I did. Like you have to get over that initial, we all have something built in that doesn't want to change and just wants the status quo because that's part of our evolution. But if you just push past that, you're almost always glad that you did, even if it is a failure. That is important. You have to be willing to accept that.
Well, it's like, I think it goes back to everything you said. It's like, it's also kind of like The Secret, right? Having that bigger, like knowing the end goal and like setting your intentions towards it, but you also got to put the work in towards it. And you enjoy doing this podcast. And when you go to so many different cities, it's so cool to find people that
it's the best.
That when you're in those modes of like, I don't want to fucking do this tonight. And then you're like, screw it. I'm just going to reach out to one person. those are probably some of your better podcasts. Like, and it's like, if you didn't do that, and I think that happens for all of us.
Yeah.
It's those little moments are the turning points for, you're right, I am on the right path.
Yeah.
You're right, I can give a little bit more effort today.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people, I mean, the only problem with The Secret is that people get it all wrong. Because in practice, it's a great method of sort of that self-improvement. It's that people get it all fucking wrong. And they're like, all right, I put the Ferrari on the bulletin board now. We're going to get the Ferrari. Yeah.
Here it comes.
That's where it goes all wrong. I feel bad for The Secret because it has been so misunderstood.
Yeah.
It's not one I've really gotten into myself, but I get it. It's like, yeah, you just set the end goal and then you just start working towards it. But it is misunderstood. People are hilarious. But also you need to think about like what that goal is, because the problem is people will make that goal something that is bullshit. Like, oh gosh, someone is gonna love Ferraris and get really mad at me. But if you're like, I want this fancy car, it's like that's not something that's going to actually change your life. That is ownership of material possession. Like, you need to really think about something that will actually make you feel like engaged and like I did something, you know. If you can set that correct goal and you do that well and then you work towards it, that's everything. That's all that that it takes.
Yeah, and the thing too is like when you hit that goal, you can probably buy yourself a Ferrari.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's such a cool thing that I'm so grateful to be able to be a part of Brittany's journey with, is she's always about like, set those huge goals, even if it is a Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if it's a Ferrari and that's what you want and it's a monetary thing or whatever, that's great. What are you going to do to get there? But more importantly, how can you help others who have the same goal figure out their path?
That's interesting.
And like be an example for them and then guide them and help them too. And I think that's been such a cool thing for Britt, having huge goals. If her goals are Olympics, world champion, all of those things that she can definitely achieve. And mine are, I want to be a guest. I want to be a guest judge on one of those cookie tasting shows.
Oh,
you know, like that's what I would love to be, is a TV
cool.
personality of sorts, right? You know, of being able to be, I guess my goal is to be a guest judge on it. I don't really care to like actually host the show.
Nice.
But that's a starting point. That end goal is the starting goal of whatever's next. But like if I'm doing that and I'm still working full-time at a job and I'm running my business out of my kitchen and looking to get this, all of these things are part of my story that I'm looking at as a gift to go through, even the stressful parts, because I have a lot of friends who are wanting to start something or wanting to do something different. And then I can have the opportunity to say, here's how I did it. Here's the experience I had. And there's no way I can ever eliminate any struggles for you, but I can at least maybe skip a few steps that maybe are costly, stressful, whatever. Don't go in the same path as me from my experience. Let me help you get to where you are and give you the confidence and encouragement to go do it, because Brittany was that for me. You know, we've had so many people are that for Britt. When she quit her corporate job to go run, like, who does that?
Right.
But who does it well? She did.
Right.
And I think it's that type of support that she now goes and coaches people of all ages on how to run. People are like, I can't run. It's bad on my knees. Be like, well, let me help you.
Right.
Because it's not bad on my knees. And there's different ways that we can run if you haven't been taught properly. And I think that goes for any category anywhere. Yeah.
Well, I like that perspective, that it's also about bringing other people up with you. But you have to manage your own ambition at the same time, which is the tough part for me.
Yeah.
Because I hear this with you guys. You're both incredibly ambitious. But there's also, I see all the Stoic philosophy books around here. And there's a big Stoic philosophy of Memento Mori, which would be like, for all of this deferred happiness, you also have to be happy as you're going through the struggle. Because if you're not, because the end goal is really nothing. It doesn't really matter what it is. We're all dust and we're going to die and we'll be those dinosaurs. And we did a whole thing on this yesterday. But, you know, it really ultimately won't matter. So you have to enjoy the struggle and the climb up. Because if you're not enjoying that, then you're missing the point.
Totally. And you don't have to enjoy it in the moment.
Oh, no, you should. Yeah, you should fully enjoy how much something sucks.
You should hate it.
Yeah.
Like, and there's been points where I'm just like, I don't know why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And then we look at conversations like this and be like, I love it, you know, but being able to reflect. And I think it's such a good point of, you know, and also managing ambitions has been hard for me because I get like, well, both Britt and I have so many ideas, but I will fill my plate with everything except for me time.
Yeah.
And I will fill my plate for things for others, for anything. And, you know, Britt and I talk about this a lot. She's amazing. Even just last night, she was like, well, I don't think you give yourself enough time to just relax, because every relaxing moment you have, if you're not doing cookies or working, you're filling with what can I do for start? What can I help? What can I go do to hang out with somebody or spend time with a social side?
You have to practice that.
It's hard for
me,
some
for people who are incredibly ambitious. It's super hard. But I feel like for me, what keeps everything in perspective is recognizing that there's only one thing I can ever control, and that's my own output. Like, I can control the results of this podcast. I can't control how many people are going to listen to it or like it. I can't control if I ever have, sponsors as a part of the podcast and it grows and it becomes a real thing. I can't control any of that. But I can make it to episode 1,000. Like, of course I can. That's all me. That requires only that I have guests that say yes, which is still up to me because I have to be convincing enough that they say yes.
Yeah.
So if you recognize the parts that you absolutely can control, then it helps you start to let go of the other things that will come that you will have no control over. And as long as you're enjoying the ride, as long as I enjoy all 1,000 people that I meet, it's going to be a fucking success.
Oh, I love that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all you've got. But you do have to be like, you know what? Today I am off. Like, because you would also have, I get dark sometimes. I have dark thoughts. I think about, deathbed regrets, or not so much deathbed regrets either, but you hear about fucking friends that get in that car accident and it's over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what were you thinking in that split second? And I always am thinking about that split second when you know it's done. What will I have wanted to change? And so I have a very hard time not changing that day to day, because it's super finite. It all goes away. And part of that would be, you'd certainly regret if you didn't give yourself time to just sit and enjoy. Mm-hmm. And that's so human too. I mean, you go back deep in human history, and we were hunter-gatherers before we were agrarian. Like, most of our time was fucking relaxing. It was a huge part of what we were as animals. We were smart enough to eat heavy calorie stuff and cook it so that we weren't always fucking hunting. We weren't always, like, we have a guinea pig. He's the dumbest animal alive. His evolution is real stalled, right? Because all he does all day is he has to eat hay so that he can shit. He literally has to take fiber into his body all fucking day so that he can just shit over and over and over again. And he can't stop eating. And this is where humans and chimps, or not chimps, but humans and primates split, was that we learned how to eat food. This is why I love food. We learned how to eat heavy calorie things so we could just have time to sit, because it would fuel us up and you're done. So if we're not relaxing, we're missing some part of the human experience in a major way.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right?
I didn't even think about it that way. And it's because
there's good evidence that hunter-gatherers spent most of their time fucking laying in hammocks,
hanging out.
Yeah, the earth was their Garden of Eden,
Oh,
and it was
what
just
a
like, there you
life.
go. Yeah,
What a life.
Yeah.
And we have so many problems now.
because we make them. You know, the world as it gets easier, in air quotes, it gets vastly more complicated, and we create our own problems constantly.
Yeah.
If everybody just chilled the fuck out for a day, everything would be totally fine.
Just relax.
Yeah.
Well, it is a Mental Health Awareness May.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
so
it will be.
it
Yes.
will be. Well, yes, it will
this
be
episode comes
when
out.
this episode comes out.
Fucking take care of yourselves, people.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, listen to you. Give yourself some you time.
Yeah. Turn
It's
off the
important.
podcast. Go do something.
Yeah. Turn this thing off.
Turn this thing off.
Have
Stop
we even
listening.
talked about cookies?
Yeah,
No,
man.
I'm just kidding.
I hope that's okay.
I love it, man.
I think things are really just parallels to bigger concepts usually.
I think
so,
they are too.
yeah.
Cookies were a really amazing outlet, a really amazing gift that I've been able to find in my life at 31 years old that have a lot of me in it, a lot of personality, a lot of being able to share a gift that I have, a talent, something I like to do with others in a way that brings them joy, makes them happy, makes little kids just get so excited. And what better feeling could I ever have giving a little kid something that he gets so excited he eats it and he wants another one, right? But it is such a small part of, I think, my purpose here. And my purpose here is, maybe it is helping other people start their own businesses. Maybe it is whatever, who knows? And I don't care what that is, because I know it's going to come and it's going to evolve and develop. And as long as I just keep controlling my output, like you said, I love that. I know what I can do, and that's going to get me towards whatever these bigger goals are, then those are going to be the new starting point.
Or you'll find new ones.
Yeah.
Like, you can go through your whole life, and then all of a sudden you cook a batch of cookies one day in 2019, November or something, and you're like, there you go.
Yeah.
Now there's a totally new path that I never would have seen.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Like if you went back and told yourself, like, all right, you're going to start a cookie baking company, you'd be like, I'm going to what now?
Yeah, it's like, no way.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
just can't be closed off to it.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I love that.
No, cookies are a good metaphor. They're a good metaphor for fucking everything.
They're good, man.
I love how finite they are. You know?
I think baking in general It's time, practice, patience, and nothing is perfection.
Right. So do you mainly stick, we can go back to cookies. Do you mainly stick with your one sugar cookie recipe? That's the base of what you do, and then it's all designed from there?
Yeah, so yeah, for the most part, I typically, if you're going to order cookies from me, it's just a vanilla sugar cookie. And it's my own recipe, and it is delicious, but I don't really go too much from there. I have done chocolate chip sugar cookies. They turned out fine. And then for the Christmas Cookie Challenge show on Food Network last year, I did a raspberry sugar cookie and a blueberry sugar cookie, and they were phenomenal.
That's awesome.
The reason I don't offer any of those things, which means I haven't played around with them enough, is because it's just quicker to do a large batch of, like, if I have 7 orders, they're all going to be the same flavor, which just is good for efficiency for me being in my home kitchen.
Right.
But I have played around with everything from like cheesecake filled snickerdoodle cookies. I've done a raspberry cheesecake filled chocolate liqueur cookie, which was real good. And then, I'm making some, I think I mentioned it earlier, but I'm really excited for these cookie dough filled cupcakes. So even though I'm making cupcakes, I'm throwing cookies in them.
Oh my gosh. I haven't had lunch today. Did I mention that to you yet?
Oh yeah.
This is making me incredibly hungry.
It's going to be delicious.
Jesus.
But yeah, so I'm really excited to keep playing around and try different flavors because you can put anything in a cookie. Similar to cake, similar to bread. The vanilla cookie is the base.
Yeah.
I mean, you can even take the vanilla out and just have a cookie, right? And you can add any flavors to it, and it's for the most part going to react the same as long as there's no liquids or anything that changes what the dough consistency would be.
I was going to ask you about vanilla. Vanilla extract, imitation vanilla extract.
Oh,
where do you fall?
Yeah, pure all the way.
Pure vanilla extract. It's a complicated. Do you know much about vanilla as a plant? It's a complicated history.
A little bit.
Yeah. They're hard to grow.
Yeah, hard to grow, which is why it's so expensive. Mm-hmm. Especially, there's a company here in town, Rodell, I think is the name. They're Colorado based, and they're a very big brand of extracts. So they make almond, they make all of that. And I was talking to one of my friends who works there, and he says they have a container of vanilla, or they have a vat of vanilla that they're making, and it's close to $1 million worth of vanilla extract every day goes through that.
Wow.
And it's just amazing.
Liquid gold.
But it's liquid gold. It takes so long to make. And so they always say if you take a couple vanilla beans, throw it in vodka, and just put it in your cabinet for a year, it's perfect vanilla extract.
Have you done that? I tried to do that with mint and blueberry.
Oh, interesting.
And they just got so rough. It was really bad. But I also was like, all right, I'm going to buy the bottom shelf vodka. Like, I really just didn't.
No, I haven't. And I heard just like cheap vodka or just like, or Everclear or something. But
okay.
I had a friend who said it was just a couple beans of vanilla in there. I also heard somebody just like load it up. So I don't know the real way to do it. I haven't done it. So listeners, please don't.
Well, when you get into that world, let me know because I got some other fermentation things you should try.
Sweet.
If you're willing to do jars and sit things
and then
in
a year, I can give you as much vanilla extract as you want.
Shit.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, this just paid off big time, folks.
Yeah, but I've played with pure vanilla extract, imitation vanilla extract, and then also baking vanilla flavoring.
Oh, okay.
They make this stuff that is
powdered or
no, it's liquid, and it looks just like pure vanilla extract, but it's called baking vanilla. And I was using that for a while, and it actually is the closest thing to pure vanilla extract, and it's half the price. It's better than the imitation vanilla, but it's just not quite there. And then they also make Mexican vanilla extract, which has a very different flavor.
Interesting.
It is more of a frosting flavor, in my opinion. It's very good, but it's very distinct. So
sounds like me.
You really have to find people who like it.
Okay.
Because it's one of those things where like some people like it, some people don't. I think it's delicious, but it's not the flavor I want all my cookies to have.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you a super taster? Have you done the test yet?
No.
I might have one in my backpack.
Really?
Vamp for a minute. Let me see.
All right. Well, that'd be amazing. I would love to. Is super tester, does that make me? It's like able to tell if I can taste certain things or not?
Yeah, it's supposed to.
Wow.
I don't know if I have any anymore. Shit.
You can just buy these?
I've got one.
No way.
Yeah. Okay. For people who've been following the podcast, the reason I have this is because I did this on an episode in Knoxville with Krista DeSocio, and she happened to have one in her drawer, and then my mom sent me a bunch of these super taster tests. So it looks like a strip of acid, which is kind of fun. Okay.
It's going to fuck the rest of my day up, isn't
there
it?
you go. No. So I have done this, and it works for me. It doesn't work for my wife. My dad was able to taste it. So you put it on your tongue, close your mouth. If
The
it
whole
tastes,
thing? Okay.
And if it tastes bitter in there, like for me, it was almost immediate. I was like, this tastes terrible. Then you are a super taster. Roll it around, see if you taste anything. These could be expired, people. Don't judge them just off of these. I don't know how old they are. Anything, or does it just taste like paper?
Well, as a experienced, I'm almost 2 years in the business now.
Right.
Cookie taster.
Yeah.
Lots of extracts, lots of icing. This tastes like paper.
Oh, shit.
Dang it. I'm not a
know.
super taster.
That's okay.
Oh, my dreams
I don't
are
think
ruined.
it matters. I don't think it
I'm
matters.
just kidding. I don't think it does either.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's horseshit anyway.
That's awesome, though. I didn't know that this was a thing.
Yeah, they give these to people at big. I've heard that they give these to people like huge conferences, and like one out of a few hundred people will put this in their mouth and run out of the room to go vomit because it's so intense for them. And there's all these things that people always say, like if a kid's a picky eater growing up, or if you can't handle spicy food or whatever, you must be a super taster or something. I don't know if it really works, but it's fun to try. I'm glad I have them with me because they've come in handy, which is hilarious.
It's just neat. Yeah, I never knew that was a thing.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly how it would work because it tastes bitter if you do taste it, and I'm not sure what that would really be testing for. Like, maybe it's just that some people can just taste this chemical that is more bitter. I mean, I don't really know, but that's the theory. So
yeah, and I'm curious if like you look at the taste testers or the judges on Chopped or any of those like cooking or baking shows, if they have superior quality of tasting, or do they just have experience of being able to take in different notes or different flavors, right?
And it's such a vast world too of people who can taste things well. Like we think mostly of those cooking shows or things or judges, but it's also like there's people who taste test things for fucking Taco Bell. Like I've seen it in a Conan video they did where they're like, they get handed a tray of food through a little window and that's their job. And you have to imagine
what a job.
There's some aspect, I would love that job because of because I always try to sound so perfect on this podcast about my eating habits, but I will fucking go for some Taco Bell. I believe in it heartily. Yeah, but
oh shit. I just spilled my water.
No, you're fine.
Hey, I didn't get on anything.
It actually was perfect. This is art right here, people.
There it is. It's like a real fat octopus.
Yeah. Do you want to use the towel here?
Shit. No, I'll get another towel.
That's all right. Watch your headphones, don't forget. Slight disasters in the recording studio. We have these from time to time. I have a staff member who's supposed to take care of these, but she decided to bail on me and go to a coffee shop today instead. So now my guest has to do it, which is just unfortunate. So while he's dealing with water, yeah, I think there's lots of other type of super tasters though, right? Like people who do wines. What is that called? Sommeliers. They must have insane abilities too, right? I would think.
Yeah, you got to think that their palate's got to be just unbelievable.
And their noses.
Yeah, because for them to be able to just like, be able to, because they have to taste the region of the grapes. They have to taste the year, the vintage.
Crazy.
Like, they have to know all of those things. I've been like, that grape's only been fermented for about a year.
That's insane.
Like, what?
That's insane.
So they've got to be mastered, or like.
I want to try it one day.
Yeah.
Do you know that episode of Parks and Rec where they go and they try to become sommeliers?
No, I don't think I've seen
They're
that.
doing this certification and they all go. They basically just get wasted in a vineyard. But it seems like there's got to be a test at some point you take and like am I good enough to be a sommelier?
Well, you can, and I have a friend whose mom's a sommelier, and so you go. There's a whole school.
Yeah.
And so it's like full wine tasting.
They make a shitload of money though.
Oh yeah.
At a decent restaurant, they will make fucking bank.
Yeah.
For just recommending wines for the courses. That's insane to me.
It's amazing because then they're basically like chefs. They're chefs for the wine menu.
Yeah.
Right. Of like, oh, you're getting the duck. Well, I'm going to pair it with this vintage. I don't know wine very well.
I feel like
Merlot.
there's a secret life out there for me as like a chef, like a legit. I would go for it kind of thing. That'd be so fun. Would also be the worst job ever.
There's school for everything, and by that I mean YouTube. You can learn anything off
Yeah.
YouTube. So, I'd say go for it, man.
I love that it's called the chef school in America is called the CIA, Culinary Institute of America, right? I just love that. It's the CIA. I'm going to the CIA. I work for them.
Yeah.
That's a dream. I'll make that happen at some point. We are really far afield here, which is what I like.
It's good though.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's been awesome. And to just meet you guys and do extra episodes and just, man, I'm soaking in Denver. It's just been a minute, and I really love it out here. I love the people out here. It's it can be hard not to be here sometimes for me, and so it's been cool to be back, and the podcast has been a good excuse to mix it up and do some more stuff. So, SugarTats
Cookie Co.
SugarTats Cookie Company. Can you give us the handle and everything where people can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram and Facebook, you can search SugarTats Cookies. So it's just TATS, just one T. SugarTats Cookies, Instagram, Facebook, and then SugarTatsCookies.com.
Perfect.
There it is.
People can get their orders placed. Is that Brittany? We might be interrupted.
Oh,
That's
boy.
hilarious. We weren't going
to tell her. We weren't going to tell her.
Brittany's back.
Oh, man.
I was like, I need to text him. And I was like, he was just amazing. And then I was like, and then I left.
We were going to surprise you.
We were going to not tell you that we did this and then just put it out.
And just put it out the next week.
Dang it. I'm so happy
Well,
this is happening.
Me too.
Yeah.
Great.
We ruined the good surprise on you. I'm just kidding.
Talk about turmeric and nose breathing.
We didn't cover those because I thought you and I really ran those to the ringer.
Yeah, we didn't need to. We got on turmeric. He was like, we actually already covered turmeric.
He says
on
turmeric.
Brits.
I just found out.
Oh, what do you say?
He doesn't like it when we say
Turmeric? What do you
I say turmeric.
turmeric?
There's an R in there. Is there not an R in there?
That
Somebody.
actually is how you're supposed to pronounce it. We
what?
say it wrong. Yeah.
Turmeric.
Hang on, people. I will get.
Completely interrupted this episode.
Oh, that's okay.
Can I make lunch in the background? 'Cause
Yeah, you,
I'm about to bail. We were just wrapping.
yeah,
one
we're
out
wrapping
the
it
door.
up.
Great.
So
So-
I'm gonna get out of your guys' hair. Turmeric is how it's spelled.
Oh, wow. All right.
Brittany's
Well,
in the
so
chat.
turmeric. Now I've got it
Okay.
from now on.
But I don't know.
Wait
How
to
you,
this episode.
Oh, it's been really fun.
Oh my
Okay.
God, no, isn't he just like Dax?
Yeah,
like
incredible.
In like a more like accessible way.
Yeah.
it's a super nice compliment.
Amazing.
Like
Oh, it's a
you're-
great
I
compliment.
love his podcast. He's great.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You're fine.
Sorry for interrupting.
Brittany, everybody.
Brittany. Sharp.
So thank you again, Justin, for being on the show. It's a ton of fun. Everybody go get yourself some cookies. I'm going to snack some pictures. As always, it is at T. Hickson Life. So you can go and find those. What am I missing? Thank you to our sponsor, Track Farms, for the CBD. Brittany's not allowed to have CBD out here, which is that's just too bad. You guys live in Colorado. You should be able to have whatever you want, but I understand. And as always, folks, we will see you on the next episode.